AITA for refusing to give my sister my inheritance after she stole my entire childhood? Have you ever been called the villain simply because you stopped letting people take advantage of you? That's exactly what happened to me. Today, my entire family says I'm selfish. My mother calls me heartless. My relatives think I destroyed my sister's life. And according to Facebook, I'm apparently the worst daughter ever. All because I refused to hand over the house my late father left to me. But here's the part no one talks about. That house wasn't just an inheritance. It was the only promise my dad ever managed to keep. I'm 31 years old and my younger sister Emily is 28. From the day she was born, she was the favourite. If Emily cried, everyone rushed to comfort her. If I cried, I was told to stop being dramatic. Whenever she wanted something that belonged to me, my parents had only one answer. You're older, be the bigger person. That sentence became the soundtrack of my childhood. My birthday gifts, shared with Emily. My bedroom eventually became our bedroom because Emily wanted more space. Even my grandparents noticed what was happening. My grandma secretly slipped me birthday money every year because she knew I'd never actually get to keep my presents. The worst part happened when I was 17. I'd spent 2 years working after school, saving every dollar for my first used car. It wasn't fancy. It had over 150,000 miles on it, but it was mine. One afternoon, Emily begged to borrow it. I said no. She didn't even have a license yet. That should have been the end of it. Instead, my mom took my keys and handed them to Emily herself. Stop acting selfish, she told me. An hour later, my phone rang. Emily had crashed the car into a mailbox. The car was totaled. Nobody asked if I was okay. Nobody apologized. Instead, my parents looked at me and said, accidents happen. A week later, they used the money they'd been saving for my first year of college to buy Emily another car. Apparently, she needed transportation. I was expected to figure college out on my own. So I did. I worked mornings, I waited tables at night, I graduated with student loans while Emily stayed home, rent-free, with every expense paid. After college, I stopped expecting fairness. I built my own life. I found a good job, bought a small house, met an amazing man named Jake. America, for the first time, I felt like I was finally escaping my family's shadow. Then came our engagement party. Jake had spent months planning the perfect evening. Friends were there, co-workers, family. Just as everyone raised a glass to celebrate, Emily stood up. I have an announcement! She smiled, holding up a tiny pair of baby shoes. I'm pregnant! Within seconds, everyone forgot why we were there. People rushed toward her. My mum started crying. My dad quietly walked over to me. He squeezed my shoulder and whispered something I'll never forget. I'm sorry. That's all he said. I'm sorry. Looking back, I think he knew exactly how unfair everything had become. A year later, Dad was diagnosed with cancer. He fought as hard as he could, but the treatment stopped working. During one of my visits to the hospital, he asked everyone else to leave the room. Then he reached for my hand. I've made some changes, he whispered. I should have protected you sooner. Before I could ask what he meant, a nurse walked in. That was the last real conversation we ever had. 2 weeks later, he was gone. I thought losing my dad would be the hardest day of my life. I was wrong, because 3 days after the funeral, our family gathered in a lawyer's office. And that's where everything exploded. The atmosphere inside the lawyer's office was painfully quiet. No one made eye contact. My mum sat beside Emily, holding her hand as if she already knew what was coming. I kept thinking about my dad's last words. I've made some changes. The lawyer opened a folder and cleared his throat. We'll begin with the personal items. Dad had left his watch to my cousin, his fishing gear to his best friend. Family photo albums were to be shared equally. Everything seemed normal. Then the lawyer turned the page. As for the family home, Emily smiled before he even finished the sentence. She actually whispered. I knew it. The lawyer continued. The property located on Maple Street is to be inherited solely by my eldest daughter. Silence. Complete silence. Then Emily laughed. Okay, seriously. The lawyer looked up. I am serious. She stared at him. No, Dad would have never done that. My mother immediately stood up. There has to be a mistake. The lawyer calmly slid a signed copy of the will across the table. There is no mistake. Emily's face turned bright red. What about me? The lawyer took a deep breath. There is also a personal letter from your father explaining his decision. He unfolded the paper. The room became completely still. My dear girls, if you're hearing this, I'm no longer here. Emily, I love you, but love doesn't mean ignoring the truth. For years, I watched your mother treat you differently from your sister. I stayed silent far too often. That silence is my greatest regret. Your sister sacrificed more than anyone should have. She gave up her childhood, her savings, her opportunities, and her peace just to keep this family together. The house belongs to her because she earned something she was never given. Fairness. No one spoke. My mother looked furious. Flake. Emily burst into tears. I can't believe he'd write something like that. The lawyer continued reading. This is not meant to punish anyone. It is meant to correct something I should have corrected years ago. When he finished, Emily stormed out of the office. My mom pointed directly at me. This is your fault! I couldn't even respond. So how was any of this my fault? I didn't write the will. Dad did. For the next week, my phone never stopped ringing. Every relative suddenly became an expert on family values. You should split the house. Your sister has children. Think about your mother. You don't really need 2 houses. Not one person asked what I wanted. Not one. Then Emily called. For the first time in years, she sounded calm. I just want to talk. Against my better judgment, I agreed. We met at a small coffee shop. She cried almost the entire time. She apologized for everything. For the favoritism, for the engagement party, for the car, for years of selfish behavior. Honestly, I wanted to believe her. Then she reached across the table. So, when are you signing the house over to me? I froze. She wasn't sorry. She was negotiating. When I quietly said, I'm keeping Dad's house, her entire expression changed. The tears disappeared instantly. You've always been jealous of me. I almost laughed. Jealous? After everything, she leaned closer. If you don't give me that house, you'll regret it. I thought she was just angry. I thought she was making empty threats. I had no idea. She already had a plan. And by the end of the week, the police would be standing on my front porch. 2 days after our meeting, I woke up to loud knocking on my front door. Not polite knocking, the kind that instantly makes your heart race. When I opened the door, 2 police officers were standing outside. Ma'am, we'd like to ask you a few questions. I felt my stomach drop. What happened? One of the officers explained that someone had reported a possible theft involving property from my late father's estate. I already knew who had made the report. Emily. She claimed I had taken valuable jewelry and hidden cash before Dad passed away. The accusation was ridiculous. Dad never kept cash around the house, and every piece of jewelry had already been listed in the estate inventory. I invited the officers inside without hesitation. They were respectful and professional. After looking through the paperwork from the estate attorney and asking a few questions, it became obvious that nothing was missing. One officer apologized for the inconvenience. As they were leaving, he quietly said, It isn't unusual for inheritance disputes to turn ugly. I nodded. I figured that out. I thought the nightmare was over. I couldn't have been more wrong. The very next morning, my phone exploded with notifications. Facebook, Instagram, even LinkedIn. Someone had posted a long story claiming I had manipulated my dying father into changing his will. According to the post, I had stolen a home from a struggling single mother. Thousands of people shared it. Strangers called me greedy. Some even found my work profile and left 1-star reviews for a company I didn't even own. Then my boss called. We know what's happening online, he said. But we also know social media rarely tells the whole story. I nearly cried with relief. For the first time all week, someone believed me. That afternoon, the estate attorney called. I think you should come to my office, he said. There's something your father left that wasn't part of the original reading. When I arrived, he placed a small sealed envelope on the desk. Your father instructed me to release this, only if the inheritance caused legal problems. Inside was a handwritten note and a flash drive. The attorney plugged it into his computer. A video appeared on the screen. It was Dad. He looked weak from chemotherapy, but he smiled. If you're watching this, he began, then I'm guessing people are questioning why I made my decision. He took a slow breath. I want there to be no confusion. For years, I watched one daughter give, while the other only took. I failed to stop it. So this house isn't a reward. So it's an apology. Then Dad looked straight into the camera. And if anyone pressures you to give this house away, my answer is no. Even after I'm gone, the answer is still no. I couldn't stop crying. The attorney looked at me and said, your father knew this might happen, but the bigger surprise was still waiting. The attorney reached into another folder. There's one more document. It was something no one in my family knew existed, and reading the first line changed everything. The attorney slowly slid the final document across the desk. This was meant to stay sealed unless your sister challenged the will. I stared at it for a moment before opening the envelope. Inside was a signed affidavit from my father. It explained everything. Years earlier, after Emily crashed my car and my college fund was used to replace it, Dad had secretly started keeping records. Bank statements, receipts, emails, even handwritten notes. Page after page documented every time money that should have gone to me had been redirected to Emily. There was only one sentence highlighted in yellow. By my calculations, my eldest daughter sacrificed well over $180,000 because of decisions made by this family. I couldn't breathe. Dad had known. He had known all along. The attorney looked at me. He wanted you to have proof in case anyone accused you of being greedy. A week later, Emily officially challenged the will. She was convinced the court would force me to split the house. Instead, her own lawyer asked to see Dad's records. After reviewing everything, his expression changed. He quietly leaned toward Emily and whispered something. She immediately looked nervous. For the first time in her life. Someone had told her no. A few days later, mediation was scheduled. My mom spent the entire meeting insisting that family should forgive. Finally, I spoke. I've spent 25 years forgiving. I forgave when my birthday gifts became Emily's. I forgave when my college fund disappeared. I forgave when my engagement parties became her pregnancy announcement. I forgave every holiday, every lie, every excuse. I looked directly at my mother. But forgiveness doesn't mean giving people another chance to take from me. The room went silent. Even the mediator stopped writing. Then the attorney played Dad's video. Everyone watched without saying a word. When Dad looked into the camera and said, "Even after I'm gone, the answer is still no." My mother's eyes filled with tears. Emily didn't cry. She just stared at the table. Her lawyer closed his folder. "We're withdrawing the challenge." Just like that. It was over. 3 months later, I moved into the house. The first thing I did was repaint Dad's old workshop. Instead of selling it, I turned it into a small woodworking studio. Something he had always dreamed of doing after retirement. For the first time in years, the house felt peaceful. Emily tried contacting me several times. She said she wanted to start over. Maybe she meant it, maybe she didn't. But I realized something important. Not every relationship deserves another chapter. Sometimes the healthiest ending is simply walking away. Last month, I drove past my childhood home. A family with 2 little kids was playing in the front yard. The laughter reminded me of the childhood I never had. For a moment, I felt angry. Then the feeling disappeared because I finally understood what Dad had been trying to give me. It wasn't just a house. It was freedom. Freedom from guilt. Freedom from manipulation. Freedom from spending my entire life trying to earn love that should have been unconditional. My relatives eventually stopped calling. The Facebook posts disappeared. The gossip faded. Life moved on. As for me, I kept the house. I kept Dad's final promise. And for the first time in my life, I stopped apologizing for choosing myself. So AITA for refusing to give my sister the inheritance my father intentionally left to me.